You remember the coffee your coworker bought you 3 years ago. You remember the ride to the airport. You remember the time your friend covered your shift without being asked. You never wrote any of it down. Nobody made you keep track. And yet somehow, you did. Your brain is running a ledger. Right now. In the background. It has been running since before you could talk. This is not a metaphor. It is closer to accounting than to memory. In 1971, biologist Robert Trivers published a theory that changed how scientists understood kindness. He called it reciprocal altruism. The idea was simple but strange. Helping someone who cannot immediately help you back only makes evolutionary sense if your brain remembers the favor and expects repayment later. Kindness, in other words, is rarely free. It is a loan. Think about what that means. Every time you help someone, some part of your mind quietly opens a line of credit. Every time someone helps you, a debt appears on the other side of the ledger. You do not decide to track this. You cannot turn it off. It happens automatically, the same way your stomach growls before you consciously feel hungry. Psychologist Alvin Gouldner called this the norm of reciprocity. Back in 1960, he argued that almost every human society, no matter how different its language or customs, shares one unspoken rule. If someone gives you something, you owe them something back, not necessarily money. Not necessarily the same thing, but something. Here is where it gets interesting. This debt does not feel like math. It feels like emotion. Guilt when you owe. Warmth when someone owes you. Discomfort when the scales feel unbalanced in either direction. Yes, in either direction. That is the part most people miss. You would think being owed a favor feels good. Sometimes it does. But research shows the feeling is more complicated than that. Being in someone's debt creates a small, persistent pressure. Your brain does not like open accounts. It wants closure. It wants balance. There is a famous experiment that shows exactly how automatic this pressure is. In 1971, psychologist Dennis Regan ran a study where a stranger, actually a researcher's assistant, gave some participants a free bottle of Coca-Cola during a short break. No explanation, no request attached, just a small, unexpected gift. Later, that same stranger asked the participants to buy raffle tickets from him. The people who had received the free Coke bought far more tickets than the people who had not. And here is the detail that made the study famous. It did not matter whether the participants even liked the stranger. Liking him barely changed the numbers. What mattered was the debt. A 10-cent soda, and people felt obligated to repay it, sometimes many times over. Now picture that same mechanism running inside you, every single day, with every person you interact with. Your coworker holds the elevator door, small deposit in your mental ledger. Your neighbor waters your plants while you are away. Bigger deposit. You forget to thank someone properly. Small withdrawal. And it nags at you until you fix it. You are not consciously calculating any of this. But somewhere underneath the surface, a running tally exists. Anthropologists studying small-scale societies have documented something remarkably similar. In tightly knit communities where survival once depended on cooperation, memory for who gave what to whom was not a personality trait. It was a survival tool. The people who forgot debts, who failed to repay favors, risked being excluded from the group entirely, and exclusion, for most of human history, was close to a death sentence. So let's reconstruct a moment. Someone in your life does something generous. Maybe they help you move. Maybe they listened for an hour when you needed to talk. In the moment, you feel gratitude. But notice what happens next, over the following days. A small voice starts asking what you can do for them. Not because you are calculating or cold. Because your brain has already opened the account, and it wants to close it. This is where the twist comes in, and it is not what you expect. You would assume the healthiest relationships are the ones with the most balanced ledgers. Every favor repaid, every debt settled quickly, clean, even, fair. But research on close relationships points somewhere else entirely. Psychologists who study friendship and marriage have found that the strongest bonds are often the ones where people stop counting altogether, not because the ledger disappears, but because the relationship becomes what researchers call communal, rather than exchange-based. In an exchange relationship, like the one with your mail carrier or your dentist, you track favors closely and expect prompt repayment. In a communal relationship, like the one with your closest friend or your partner, tracking too closely is actually a warning sign. Studies have shown that couples who keep a tight, explicit tally of who did what for whom report lower satisfaction, not higher. The scorekeeping itself becomes the problem. In other words, the ledger never goes away. But in your deepest relationships, you learn to stop checking the balance. This explains something strange about modern life. You can do a favor for a close friend and feel nothing but warmth. But do a similar favor for an acquaintance, a co-worker, someone you barely know, and the mental math kicks in immediately. Did they say thank you properly? Will they return this? Is this relationship even? That discomfort is not you being petty. It is your ancient reciprocity system, built for survival in small tribal groups, trying to apply the same rules to a world full of strangers, co-workers, and people you will interact with exactly once. Social media makes this even stranger. A like on your photo, a comment on your post, a follow back you did not receive. Your brain treats these tiny digital gestures the same way it once treated a shared meal or a favor at a hunting camp. It opens accounts, it tracks debts. It feels a flicker of unease when something goes unreciprocated, even when the stakes are microscopic and the other person is someone you have never actually spoken to. Think about the last time you felt a small sting because someone did not reply to your message as quickly as you replied to theirs. That sting is not irrational. It is thousands of years of reciprocal bookkeeping, misfiring in a world your ancestors never could have imagined. Once you see the ledger, you cannot unsee it. The compliment you feel obligated to return. The invitation you feel you must reciprocate. The small guilt when you cannot repay someone right away. None of this is weakness. It is the oldest form of social glue humans have, still running quietly underneath every interaction you have today. You did not choose to remember that coffee from 3 years ago. Your brain chose for you, because for most of human history, forgetting a debt could cost you everything, and remembering one could keep you alive.